Hey, I'm Phil from Contemplative Chaos, and thanks for tuning into my channel about parent-child bonding through shared activities. And today it's shared conversations. We're talking about how to move from being a manager of your children to being a genuine, engaged parent. I'm tackling a big, tough subject that I think every father and every mother of young man needs to hear about. And parents of girls too, but this is focused on boys because my oldest son is 13. And if you like family-centered content about building genuine connections with your kids, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. I want to start by reflecting on the massive cultural influence of certain figures. Guys like Charlie Kirk, Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, David Goggins, and many others. I'm not bringing this up for political reasons or even to debate their specific philosophies. I'm bringing it up from a parental perspective. The reality is that over the last few years, these men, whether you agree with their opinion or not, have inspired a huge number of young men, from college students to boys. They offer a direct, compelling, and often simple path toward duty, purpose, meaning, and what they define as true manhood. And objectively, they're pretty successful. They have millions and millions of social media followers. And what they teach sounds a lot like what a dad is supposed to do. But it makes you stop and think. Why are all these young men flocking to a screen, turning to a talking head? Someone who is fundamentally a stranger to your kid for arguably the most important lessons in their lives. They're just people with opinions. Some educated, some not, yet they become default spiritual and emotional masculine gurus who really are just telling you what to think, or telling your kids what to think. I think the answer is simple, but painful. For too many of these young men, there is a gaping void in their own lives, and this vacuum is being filled by these social influencers. Parenthood, fatherhood is being outsourced to the web. There are a few issues with this. First, who says these influencers share your family values? For some people, that's probably a good thing, but most parents want their kids to share their family values. Second, you're missing out on the opportunity to bond with your kids. And here's where the biggest danger lies. This outsourcing of fatherhood doesn't just stop with the positive mentors. This void is also being filled by those who promote genuinely toxic or negative ideologies, such as Andrew Tate and others who preach contempt and isolation. And when you say nothing, when you are absent, you don't just lose the opportunity to connect. You create an opening for the worst possible messengers. This isn't just anecdotal observation. It's a national crisis reflected in the numbers. Today, approximately 24 million children, or 34%, live absent their biological father. That is a colossal number, and the consequences for the sons in those homes, and the boys in general, are pretty severe. Children from father-absent homes face a 4 times greater risk of poverty. They are far more likely to have behavior problems, face an increased likelihood of substance abuse, and tragically, incarceration. Boys who lack that positive present-father relationship may also demonstrate higher rates of aggression and profound loneliness and lack of direction. Men now make up only 40.5% of college enrollment, a significant and alarming reversal compared to years past. And a 2021 survey found that 15% of men had no close friends, a staggering 5-fold increase since the 1990s. And most tragically, men account for more than 4 times as many completed suicides as women every year. This data paints a picture of isolation, lack of direction, and deep mental health struggles. It tells us that what these young men are searching for online is real. The desperation is real. The question is, why aren't they finding the answers at home? I have a few thoughts. This is a complex topic and there is no silver bullet, but hear me out. First is a crucial concept, the rhetoric-reality gap in parenting. This is when the thing you think you're teaching your kids isn't actually being done. If I asked any of you parents, what's your top priority for your kids? Most would say raising children with strong character, good values, and essential life skills. That's the rhetoric. But the reality, according to data from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, is that roughly 80% of youth believe their parents value achievement, grades, success, and happiness above all else. Regardless if those are good or bad priorities, isn't really the issue. It's that what the youth think their parents prioritize doesn't align with what the parents think is a priority. And why the disconnect? Because we, the parents, have allowed our deepest, most important conversations to be drowned out by the noise of logistics. We move through the day, checking on homework, managing schedules, and reminding them about chores. We become the chief managers instead of the chief mentor. And because the messenger is tuned out, the few times we do try to discuss a big topic like finances, morality, politics, it often devolves into a brief lecture, leading to the illusion of transparency. We mistakenly believe our values are being understood simply because we mention them once in the middle of a car ride. You think you've passed on your financial literacy because you said, "save your money," once, when really all they heard was blah, blah, blah. Trust me, this happens to me all the time, and I'm so guilty of this. I think I'm teaching them something when really they hear what's coming out of my mouth as some kind of a punishment. Now, before we get to this solution, let's talk about a father's unique role in this. It's not just about advice, it's about presence and specifically play. Fathers uniquely encourage children to take risks, overcome obstacles, and be independent. A father's play tends to be rougher, more challenging, and pushes boundaries, a vital form of emotional development impossible to replicate through a screen. Quick detour. It's short story time. I remember when my son was about 7. We have quite a few trees in the yard and he wanted to climb one. I let him climb it, but he got to a height that my wife wasn't comfortable with. Frankly, I climbed trees as a boy all the time, so it didn't scare me much. I convinced her it was fine and told Dominic he could go an additional 10 feet. He was nervous, and I could tell he was a little terrified, but when he reached his destination, he was ecstatic. And when my girls wanted to climb a few years later, I encouraged them to. My oldest daughter was probably the most excited to push her gravitational boundaries and take some chances. The look of her sheer thrill and accomplishment when they reached high up, despite their fear factor. So worth it. Dads are needed when learning about risk-taking. It's the same on lesser risks, like mountain biking, backpacking, and other phobias. That's where independence is born. But wait, there's a biological wrinkle to this whole conversation, particularly when they become teenagers, like my son. It is a common frustration. You say something, and your teen shrugs. Your coach or a random influencer says the exact same thing, and they treat it like gospel. This isn't just teenage rebellion. It's actually biology. A 2022 study from Stanford Medicine revealed a neurobiological switch that flips around the age of 13. While younger children's brains light up for their mother's voice, teenage brains actually prioritize unfamiliar voices, treating parental input as background noise. This biological drive for individuation, combined with a psychological need for autonomy, creates a specific barrier. Parental advice is perceived as control, whereas the exact same advice from a mentor or respected non-parent adult is received as guidance. And this is a key takeaway. If you have teenagers, you probably already know that they might not listen to you as carefully as other adults. The choice isn't between you and a positive mentor. It's between you and a virtual echo chamber that preys on their isolation. So if your son or young man in your life is looking to the internet for his first lessons on manhood, it's a moment for deep concern. You may have to work to earn that influence back, and sometimes you need a partner. If you don't have a reliable, positive man in your life, you, the parent, need to find one for them. Recruit their uncle, a grandfather, a mentor through a trusted organization, or a respected family friend. Is there another man in their life that you trust deeply and has a wealth of life's wisdom? For us, it's their grandpa and uncles. You need to find them one if they have no other. This also expands your sphere of knowledge where they can learn skills that the other adults know that you don't. But this doesn't absolve you, the parent, of the main job. You are still the primary influence. You just need a new communication strategy. To effectively communicate, parents must shift their approach from lecturing to engaging through genuine conversational turns. This strategy is supported by MIT research, which found that brain development and skill acquisition are driven not by the total number of words spoken by a parent, but by the number of back and forth exchanges in a dialogue. I think most people call this conversation, but I know as a parent, I'm usually thinking about like lecturing with my kids and just talking to them one-on-one, but it's really just me monologuing. A command, a directive, or a lecture, like you need to save 20% of your paycheck, does not build cognitive or emotional skills in the same way. It triggers that resistive circuit. Since the teenage brain is primed to resist control, the key is to bypass the control trigger by asking open-ended, Socratic questions that invite the teen to process and solve problems independently. Don't say, "You need to budget your money better. Stop spending all your cash on streaming and clothes." That would be a lecture. Say instead, "Hey, you got paid today. If you had to look at that money and make one decision right now that would affect your life in 5 years, what would that decision be and why?" That's an engagement. This turns a potential lecture into a genuine, skill-building dialogue. You are giving them the autonomy to start making educated decisions by themselves under your roof before they are forced to make high-stakes, life-altering fiscal and moral decisions on their own. And I know what you may be thinking. Well, I made too many of my own mistakes to be credible. Or I don't know enough about finance, morality, politics, insert here, to talk about it. That should be your first indication that you should learn more about being an adult yourself. And that's where these social influencers can come in. Watch some YouTube videos together and bond over the conversation or debate that the influencer brings up. What's your take and what's your kid's take? Some of these influencers have a lot of merit in what they're saying. Some influencers may expand your perspective. When your kid is impressionable is when you want to watch this stuff with them. And 13-year-olds are pretty impressionable. And still think you don't know enough about being an adult? Welcome to the human race. All the more reason they need to hear your experience. They need to see you, the parent, admit, "You know what? I messed up my first career. That's why I want you to ask me the tough questions." Or, "I didn't start saving until I was 35. Let me tell you what that cost me so that you don't make the same mistake." There are way too many things my parents told me about their early adulthood after I became an adult. Your kids will still have questions, but if you stay silent, that's where the influencers step in without your guidance. We have to stop outsourcing the most important job in the world. We need to be the primary role models and the real-life influencers. And that starts with us initiating the deep conversations on a regular basis. Here are the big essential topics they're getting from the screen that they must hear from you face to face. First, morality and philosophies of life. Questions like, what is your purpose? What does it mean to be a good man or a woman? How do you treat people who disagree with you? You may find out you don't know yourself very well. Number 2, religion and politics. Don't shield them either. They're seeing this everywhere. Ask them, why do you believe that? And genuinely listen. You may realize you don't know as much about your beliefs as you thought you did. Number 3, job prospects and career paths. Is college necessary? What is the value of the skilled trades? How do you interview for a job? This may dig up emotional trauma due to the college loan debts you were still paying for. And 4, financial literacy and generational wealth. How do you afford a home, manage credit, budget, and build something that lasts beyond your lifetime? You may wish your parents had that talk with you. You could be a millionaire by now. Number 5, dating, marriage, and commitment. Not just the mechanics, but the values of long-term commitment in raising children. You may realize that having more than 2 children is actually a blessing. And here's the most difficult part for a parent. Let them challenge you, just a little bit. Parents aren't perfect. Nobody is. Sometimes we need our adolescents to push back in a healthy way when we're being authoritarian or making claims without all the facts. It helps to have a non-judgmental discussion with your kids where they can ask, "Why's that, Dad?" and not feel like you're talking past each other. Keep that dialogue open. It's important. It's from you and not a screen. I think if all parents did their job, there wouldn't be a need for these social media influencers. And there's one more reason to avoid the online influencers. You see, the average teenage male spends 4.4 hours on social media a day. That is a soul-sucking time spent not with a real person face to face. Even if they aren't actively searching for masculine advice, 3/4 of adolescent boys still regularly see posts about masculinity. The echo chamber has a grip. We have to bring the conversations back home. This is what good parents have always done. They get involved, show up, and start the conversation. Today. Sometimes that means we need to approach those questions ourselves. Maybe you haven't answered those deeper questions about your own purpose or finances satisfactorily. Welcome to being a human. Now it's time to start digging. All the more reason they need to hear that you are in this together. What's life without some soul searching, humility, and acknowledging you don't have all the answers? Don't let some social influencer be their first role model or let your kids get stuck behind a screen for life advice. Go talk to them. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Until next time, God bless.